Alright, this assignment is a quiz. Make sure you answer the question at the end of this quiz so you get your points. Make sure you hand in the paper that I have given you with this video, and make sure everything is copied so you get your points. Turning in your paper without everything being turned in is going to get you a 0. So again, make sure you watch this thing, pay attention, listen to what I'm talking about, and try your best to advance at least a little bit. I know I'm not there today, but again, try to at least advance a little bit on what's going on, and everything else should be good. So far we've used 3 tools to create opposite x terms. We either copy the expression, which we talked about on Friday, where you just pretty much write it the same way. We multiply by using the distributive property, or we switched all the signs on what's going on. That is not going to change. Those are the only 3 tools you have for elimination. The real purpose of the elimination process is to create opposite x terms so that we can cancel them out through addition. Again, what we wanted to do was create a 3x and a negative 3x, so when we added those out we could cross them out, and that would give us a y value. If we did not cancel out the x values, then what that would do is it would leave us something that we can't actually solve. So again, note a few key points. First off, again, this paper that you have in front of you represents 30 points of your in-class quiz. I'm trying to give you points on this thing. Choosing to skip any of the material earns you a 0% because you have the ability to pause and rewind. There's no excuse if you happen to turn it in and say I didn't get it done because I didn't get a chance to write it. That is not a good excuse. So again, make sure you watch this whole thing, make sure you copy all this stuff, and do what you need to do on that. The question at the end of the video must also be answered for your final 20 points of your in-class quiz. So choosing to stop watching the video again is going to result in a 0% on that thing. And of course, if you stopped watching the video, you're going to get a 0 on this quiz, which is bad. It is a free quiz, but it also can hurt you. C-A-N, can hurt you if you do not do your job. So again, just make sure you take it seriously, get what you're supposed to get out of this. If anything, just copy the notes and try to make sure you pay attention to what I'm telling you, because we are taking a step forward as soon as we review. First thing we did in this section is we created opposite x terms. And so what we did was we had 4x and 3x, and we realized that 4 and 3 are not the same and they meet at 12. So what we did was we would multiply the top by 3, we would multiply the bottom by 4. That would then give us 12x here. It would then give us 12x down here, which we would then switch to be 12x and negative 12x. Again, what those of you who get it understands that this is really easy, but those of you who are just on the verge of getting it, it's just the same thing as we're doing now on the other 2 sections that we look at. The only difference is that there are things that confuse you on the other sections, so you just got to kind of take your time. Here with x and x, because these are already the same, what we do is we just switch the bottom row, copy the top x, switch the bottom x. On the third one where we have an 8x and an x, what we want to do here is make sure that we get the numbers right first. So we'll multiply this by 8, and since that's already an 8, we would leave that alone. That would then bring down 8x, and we copy our 8x. And the next thing we would do is switch the bottom by copying the top 8 and switching the bottom 8. This does not change at all throughout this video lesson. Again, the only difference is, as it says down here, the existence of what we call distractors. Distractors do exactly what the name says. They distract you, and they take your focus off of what's really important, and it makes you cause an error in your copying. It makes you forget to switch to negative. It makes you forget to multiply by the outside. The same mistake that some of you have been doing on 2-term problems, or the ones where it's got an x and a y, is what's going to also happen whenever we move to 3 terms, and it's going to happen until you practice enough. So don't get frustrated by your mistakes. Just make sure you keep working to get better, because eventually you will get better. Most of you have the copy, switch, and multiply steps down with no distractors, but for some reason, again, you start to kind of overlook signs, and you start to overlook the multiplications once the distractions are introduced. So if that is you, my advice to you is just to slow down, because the reason you're messing up is because you're rushing through it. You're overlooking something because you're not taking your time. For example, when you see 3x minus 2y equals 7, think for a moment how many things you see. Count in your head how many things you see in this expression. Most of you would say 3. You would say, I see a 3x, a 2y, and a 7. Some of you might say 4, some of you might say 5. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things, I believe. I see a 3, I see an x, I see a minus, I see a 2, I see a y, I see an equals, I see a 7. That's 7 things I see, but that's only because in my experience I've learned to slow down, and I understand that each of those individual parts are very important. I don't write 3x, I write the 3 and then I write the x. I don't write minus 2y, I write a minus, then I write a 2, then I write a y. I don't write equals 7, I write it equals, and then I write a 7. And doing that and paying attention to the small parts of this expression will make a big difference whenever you start to copy, whenever you start to distribute, because then you actually pay attention to all the small things that cause you all your errors whenever you're working this stuff out. So again, reviewing what we did last week, or reteaching what we did last week for those of you who weren't here. Your goal again is to eliminate x, which means we need to create an opposite x. If you remember, what I told you is you ignore that y and just work as if the y's aren't there, but you have to treat the y as the same as the x. So whatever I do to this x, I must do to that y. Whatever I do to this x, I must do to that y. If I switch that 5, I must switch that 3. If I multiply this 5, I must multiply the 3. Same thing, if I multiply that x, I have to multiply the 2. If I switch that x, I must switch that 2. So that's the only thing you have to be careful of, but again, you are focusing only on the x's. And based off of what I see with the x's covering this up, which you might want to do, I need to multiply this bottom by 5. So what I'm going to do is put the whole bottom part in a parentheses with a 5. I am then going to do 5x plus 3y because that gets copied, and then the bottom turns into 5x minus 10y. The issue now is not anything other than the fact that 1, 5 is positive and 1, 5 is negative, so I need to switch the bottom. So I copy the top, 5x plus 3y. I switch the bottom, negative 5x plus 10y. Again, that is a plus. Now that they are opposite, I get rid of my 5x. 3 and 10 make 13y. Some of you are forgetting to copy your variables, but again, that's because you are not seeing everything that's there. I see 5, I see a negative, a 5, a x, a plus, a 10, and a y, and you're overlooking that stuff because you're seeing them in chunks. You don't want to view things in chunks just yet, not till you get faster, because what happens is the better you get, the more you start to see them in chunks, but you first must see them as small individual pieces so that things work out. Number 5, again, if you have to, take your finger, cover it up. 8x and 8x, they're already both 8, so what means that all I have to do really is just switch the bottom one. So I will copy the top, 8x minus 4y. I will switch the bottom, negative 8x plus 7y. Now that I have my opposites, my 8x's go away. If you don't know what this is, simply type negative 4 plus 7, and you get 3, so that would be 3 positive y. Number 6, again, make sure you're copying these down. Covering up my y's because I really don't care about them. What I need to do is have both of these numbers get multiplied. So I'm going to multiply the top one by 5 because remember I just bring it up. I'm going to multiply the bottom by 2. I end up with 10x minus 25y. Down here I end up with 10x plus 6y. Again, the issue now is that my 10x's are not opposite, so I'm going to copy the top, and I'm going to switch the bottom, negative 10x minus 6y. Now that I have my opposites, my 10x's go away. If you don't know what negative 25 and 6 make, just hit negative 25 plus negative 6 the same way we've been doing all year to get the answer of negative 31y. Now again, if you're having an issue typing in your calculator, please make sure you say something to me at some point. I mean, the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get anyway. But you should know how to type those things in. But this constitutes our review for the moment. So again, if you were lost up to this point, then I guess the only thing you're doing for the rest of the day is just copying what I'm doing and trying to think to see if you can figure out what's going on. But this is where we were up to last week. This is what I worked hard to get you to last week so that we can move on to this stuff this week and put this behind us. Whether you know it or not, we have to eventually put us behind us. Keep in mind we performed the same exact steps in these problems. I should say these problems as we did in our first section. We just had to be sure not to lose our focus with the presence of a y variable. Today what we're going to do is we're going to look at 2 distractors per equation, which means that this represented one distractor. Now what we're going to do, as you can see on number 7, is you're going to have 2 distractors to deal with. So what we're going to do is eliminate x to find the actual value of y. Not just the variable, but the value, and I'll show you what I'm talking about when we get there. But again, to start this, you still ignore everything behind there. You look at your 2x's and you say, I need to make these 2 opposites, but they're already 2, so what I'm going to do is copy the top. You have to make sure you copy it appropriately. 2x plus y equals 11. And we switch the bottom. Negative 2x minus 3y, negative 21. Now we add up our terms. 2x goes away. This makes, again, 1 plus negative 3. If you don't know what it is, type it in. Makes negative 2y. 11 plus negative 21 makes negative 10. And from there we solve. So 2y equals 10, and y therefore would equal, if you divide by 2, 5. So now that we actually have a y value and a number, we can actually do the algebra to finish it off. But notice what we did is the exact same. The only thing is that we now have a equals and some number attached to it that gives us some more work. Number 8, again, focusing only on the x's. I think I want a piece of paper for this so I don't have to keep hiding it the way I'm hiding it. 1 second. And like I said, you can do this with your work too. So looking only at our x's, what we are going to do here is, because they're already both 3x, we're just going to switch the bottom. So copy the top, which means 3x minus 2y equals negative 1. Switch the bottom, which means negative 3x minus 4y, negative 11. 3x cancel out now that they're opposites. Negative 2 and negative 4. Again, if you don't know what it is, type it in for yourself to get negative 6. Negative 1 and negative 11. If you don't know what it is, type it in for yourself to see what it is. That should be negative 6y, by the way. And that makes negative 12. From there, 6y equals 12. Divide by 6, and y would equal 2. The reason I'm breezing through that is because we already know how to solve, and I think you can handle that part. Alright. Number 9. Again, looking at these 2 things, we're looking at 4x and x. If all I had was 4x and x, I think we would multiply this bottom by 4, so that's what we're going to do. Copy the top. 4x plus y equals 9. Multiply the bottom by 4, so we end up with 4x minus 8y equals 4 times 0 is 0. Now, again, if you're focusing only on your x's, you notice that you have 4x and 4x, where you want to keep the top and switch the bottom. So copy the top. 4x plus y equals 9. Switch the bottom. Negative 4x plus 8y equals 0, because you really can't switch the sign on a 0. Now what we do is we cancel out our 4x's. Y and 8y make 9y. 9 plus 0 makes 9. Divide by 9, you end up with the answer of y equals 1. Alright. Number 10. Looking at these things here, I'm going to go ahead and start speeding up a little bit, because again, I'm not going to type the calculator stuff in, and I'm not going to explain as much, but I will cover it up so you can see it. X and 2x, we need to multiply the top by 2, so let's get that done. So you end up with 2x minus 6y, negative 8. Copy the bottom. 2x minus 4y, negative 4. You then have to switch the bottom one, so we end up with 2x minus 6y equals negative 8, and we end up with negative 2x plus 4y equals 4. From there, we add our terms. 2x's cancel out. Negative 6 and negative 6 and positive 4 make negative 2. Negative 8 plus 4 make negative 4. And then solve the way we learned to solve, which is just to switch our y over and then get that answer. Keep in mind, we've got all week to kind of learn this process, so stay patient. Don't feel like you have to learn it all today, but if you can get it by today, that means you're back in good shape, like you probably have been, because the people who have stayed up are probably understanding this now. You're just waiting for me to get through this video, but I'm also taking my time on the video because, I mean, this is a quiz after all, and all you have to do is copy the stuff. So just be patient. Here we have 2x and 3x. Again, covering up everything else. What I would do here is have my x's meet at 6, so we're going to multiply the top by 3. We're going to multiply the bottom by 2. You end up with 6x. 12y equals 66. Down at the bottom you end up with 6x minus 4y equals 18. We then need to switch our 6's, so we do 6x, 12y, 66. You switch the bottom to be negative 6x plus 4y, negative 18. Cancel out your x's. 16y is whatever 66 minus 18 is, which is 48. Now we divide by 16, and you can verify that for yourself by getting the answer of y equals 3. Alright. 12. 2x and 5x. Again, both of these x's, I need to multiply the top by 5 because I brought that number up. Multiply the bottom by 2 because I brought that number down. We then end up with 10x, 25y, and 5. Again, not 1. On the bottom we end up with 10x minus 14y equals 16. We then switch our bottom row, so we do 10x minus 25y equals 5. Please make sure you're not skipping any of these steps. And then we get negative 10x plus 14y equals negative 16. And when we add our terms here, we end up with negative 9y equals negative 9, which from there I switch both sides and divide to get y equals 1. Alright. Looks like we're almost done. Just got a few more. I have to do this so you get some repetition, and plus so you can actually see some different types of questions. So here we go. 3x minus 2y 4, 4x plus y 13. Again, looking at this, we have a 3 and a 4, so we will multiply the top by 4, multiply the bottom by 3. You end up with 12x minus 8y, negative 16. Down here you end up with 12x, 3y, and 39. The top row stays the same, so copy it down. The bottom row switches. And then you add your terms. Negative 8 and negative 3 make negative 11. Negative 16, negative 39 make, I don't know, but let's type it in. Negative 55, which is actually pretty good because you notice 11 and 55, they do divide. And when you divide by 11, you end up with the answer of y equals 5. 14, got a 2 and a 3. Multiply the top by 3, multiply the bottom by 2. End up with 6x minus 3y equals 30. End up with 6x plus 4y equals 16. Let's copy the top. Switch the bottom. Add your terms. Gone. Negative 7y. 30 minus 16 is 14. I don't know why I put 114, but yes, it is 14. Switch my signs over. Divide by 7. Look at that. Negative numbers exist also. But again, the bottom line is make sure you understand the process. Do the same thing you've been doing. The only difference is whenever you eliminate your x, you should end up with something that you can solve using very, very basic algebra. Doesn't take too much effort. Doesn't take too long to do, as long as you are getting close to understanding how that first part from last week works. 7 and 5 here again, 7x and 5x. Notice I don't even look at the rest of the problem. I see a 7 and 5, so I'm going to multiply the top by 5, multiply the bottom by 7. I end up with 35x minus 20y equals negative 35. Here I get 35x plus 7y equals, I think, 154. Yep. I then have to switch the bottom row. 35x minus 20y, negative 35. Negative 35x minus 7y is negative 154. Now that I have my opposite x's that cancel, I cancel those things out. I end up with negative 27y and negative 189. I then switch my signs over and divide by 27 to get 7. That is it. Alright. This one, again, you got to make sure you make the right choice, because we've seen a bunch where you have to multiply both. Now you're back in an area where you have to you have to show some discretion there and make sure you understand you don't need to do anything but multiply the bottom by 3. And so you copy the top, 3x plus y equals negative 21. You multiply the bottom, 3x plus 3y equals negative 15. You then leave the top alone, 3x plus y equals negative 21, and you switch the bottom, negative 3x, negative 3y, 15. Now you have your opposites. Y and negative 3y make negative 2y, negative 21 and 15 make negative 6. Solve. It is really not that hard once you understand how to eliminate your x. That is the hardest part. And that is the part that we'll be working on when I get back. Now I know your homework today, if you get to it, does not have, or probably has some older stuff, because I'm assuming that I'm probably not going to give you anything for everything. I just want to make sure you keep your fundamentals. So here we go, 4x, 5x, 3y, 2, all that good stuff. So we're going to go ahead and multiply the top by 5, and we're going to multiply the bottom by 4. We end up with 20x. 15y, and 10. We end up with 20x, 12y, negative 8. We then copy the top, and we switch the bottom. That's no good. Oh, okay, it is okay. This goes away. 15 minus 12 makes 3. 10 plus 8 actually makes 18. Which when you divide by 3, you get the answer of y equals 6. Alright. Last one. Not the last one, but last one on this page. 2x and 2x are already the same. Now those of you who think you have to multiply top and bottom by 2, that is fine. You will still get the answer. The problem is your numbers are going to be twice as big. So what I'm going to do here, because they're already the same, is just copy the top and switch the bottom. I am then going to cancel out my 2, bring down 8y equals 24, divide by 8, getting y equals 3. Now I'm going to stop there for a second, because I'm going to go ahead and don't write this part. I'm going to go ahead and do what some of you like to do, which is multiply by 2, just to show you it still works. You would have ended up with 4x plus 6y equals 22. You would have ended up with 4x minus 10y equals negative 26. You then would have copied the top, 4x plus 6y equals 22, switch the bottom, negative 4, positive 10, and 26. You then would have gotten 16y here, and 48 here. And if you want to look for yourself, 48 divided by 16 is still 3, which is what you would have ended up with. So as I said, it is not important for you to absolutely always have the same, or to have the lowest number. What you want to do is make sure you know how to make them eliminate. 2 more, then you go ahead and turn this in and move on to the next phase. Also answering the question, don't forget to answer that question. This is a 50-point quiz that we're doing this for. 4x and 5x. Multiply the top by 5, multiply the bottom by 4. We end up with 20x minus 15y equals 40. We end up with 20x minus 8y equals negative 44. We then copy the top, and we switch the bottom. We then go through here, cancel this out. That gives me, I believe, a negative 7. And this gives me a positive 84. Switch your 7 over and notice that everything works out just fine. I think 84 divided by 7 is 12, and it is. And then number 20. Look at this real quick and think about what you would multiply by. Just don't do anything, because you're probably going to overwork yourself if you do. Because most of you are thinking multiply the bottom by 6 and the top by 2, which would work. But think about it. Can't I turn a 2 into a 6? Yes, I can, by simply multiplying by 3. Now again, if you don't see that, you'll still get the same answer. But it does save you dealing with big numbers. So 6x plus 5y equals 19 gets copied. 6x, 9y, and 15 also gets copied. You then copy the top and switch the bottom, which then gives me a negative 4y and a 4. Switch that over and divide, and y is negative 1. So again, go ahead and take some time. Turn this sheet in. Actually, be sure to answer the question that pops up, but here's what you need to do. Turn your sheet in, go to Math Excel, work on that homework assignment, and get as much as you can done on that. But again, main thing to do is to make sure you stay out of trouble, because if you do get in trouble, then I am probably going to take some points away from you on that. In terms of your homework, in terms of your quiz, all you have to do is really just practice on the basic skills of Math Excel, and I'm probably going to give you an extra quiz, 20 points on that if you can finish that assignment, or at least come close to finishing the assignment. So other than that, go to your Math Excel, answer your question, then go to Math Excel, and good luck. I'll see you tomorrow.